Hi Theo, it's Thursday, March 26, 2020, and we are deep into this quarantine for coronavirus, and I'm excited that you were down to do video letters because I think that it's fun, and even if we get out of quarantine soon, we can keep doing this if you want, because I think that it's kind of cool to have, I don't know, like regular communication where you actually see someone. Like we FaceTimed yesterday and it's just so much better than like texting, I think. So I think that's cool. Let's see, yesterday after we FaceTimed, I made chili in the Instant Pot and chocolate chip cookies, and today for my quarantine activity, because that's like a thing that we do now, I planted some seeds for some vegetables in little pots that are now by the window, and we'll see if those grow. So this morning I woke up and I read the first news headline or whatever, which is that 3.28 million people filed for unemployment in 1 week. And I think that, as I understand it, that number lags a bit, and so we're expecting like a lot more. And my first thought was like, holy shit, that's a lot of people. But then also I was like, I think I just have kind of a hard time understanding like what that number means and looks like. I think that it's been really cool and unique that we get to experience this pandemic because we get to see the entire world responding to something together, which is kind of like we've talked about from that book Tribe. Like, sometimes what we want is to have to survive and rely on each other, and some of our most human instincts come from that. And it is unique that the entire world together is facing this thing, I guess. But something that it's definitely highlighted to me is I have a hard time comprehending, really understanding like big numbers, I think. And I think that there's also an element of like desensitization to like charts that come out as we continue to track like the number of cases worldwide and the number of deaths and stuff. It's kind of funny that Seattle was like the epicenter in the US, because when they were talking about like the first cases here and stuff and all of the deaths, I remember like one day the headline or whatever was like, 9 people dead in Seattle from it, and like this article failed to mention that all of the cases were also at like an assisted living facility where like the population is already at a much higher risk. So I've definitely been doing a lot of thinking about like what data really means and what some like big numbers like that probably mean for other people. I'm definitely really grateful that I'm so fortunate and just, grateful for like everything that I have. But I think that to think about like what that feels like for over 3 million people is sometimes a more salient way for me to like internalize like what that actually means. Let's see, something else that I've been kind of thinking about, kind of like we were talking a little bit about yesterday, is like how I'm reconciling the whole like completely unknowable future thing. My whole part-time nihilist thing is kind of fun in this time because like I think about this enough anyway, but I do think that with all the things that are going on, a lot of people that don't necessarily think about it all the time get to think about it, and it's interesting to see people's reactions. And there's definitely a lot of like anxiety and fear, I think, like stress that's coming from not knowing. And I personally think that like I have found some kind of peace with like, tomorrow could be completely different from everything I know today, and I'm trying to like derive my sense of like security, like almost confidence, but I would say confidence with like less self-esteem than like ego maybe. And like I'm trying to get that sense of security from myself and like my confidence that in like if we end up in like a Mad Max scenario tomorrow, like I would be able to like assess a situation and kind of figure out like what I wanted to do based on like what I knew. And it gets really nihilistic if you think about how like none of it really matters anyway, like period. So when people are trying to get things like back to the way they were, like there are certain like metrics that we could say we want to get them back to the way they were, like, you know, the economy for one. You know, when the Dow drops a ton of points and everyone's like, oh, we just lost all these gains, like there's a very, that's a very numerical like metric to be able to say like we can return to this state or something. But I also think that something that they probably experienced pretty dramatically in the Depression too is like as a group, as a society, as a generation of people that experienced this thing together, like they're probably changed forever. I think that, you know, people were kind of talking about, like I saw on Reddit, how some people were talking about like weird habits that their family members picked up in times of, I don't know, unrest, trauma, different like events that impact how they behave. And I'm kind of just like interested to see like what, like I kind of joke about like, you know, okay, a whole generation's just gonna hoard toilet paper for the rest of our lives, but like I think there are probably gonna be like interesting behavioral markers that come out of this, and I'm kind of interested. We'll kind of see. I think that it'll also be interesting to see. We've had to change like our methods of socialization due to like, you know, the quarantine and stuff, and a lot of work has gone remote at like what I would consider to be like an accelerated pace, if we believe that like remote work is the future anyway. And I think that'll be really interesting to see once this is over, like how we all reflect on this experience together and like takeaways, things that we've learned. I think that it'll be really good to sort of distill a lot of that and figure out like what this has like unearthed for us, or how it's helped us, you know, see things from a different perspective. And I do think that everyone will have something to say about it, but I think that it's a matter of how we like use those insights and like what our goal is, I guess with this newfound information. It's kind of an interesting just like social experiment. You know, we like didn't really have a choice, but we're all living it together and kind of seeing what happens. So I think that's cool. I had something that I wanted to ask you, but I can't remember right now. Whatever, I'm gonna get better at this video later. Maybe I'll start writing things down. I like have my phone in case I wanna look something up, because, you know, sometimes there are just like things that are important, but for now I think I'm gonna try to keep this like kind of short, and I'll let you tell me what else is up. But then there was this other thing, I haven't watched it yet, but I'm gonna send you a link to it, and maybe we can talk about it after. But it's like, I think this video is a YouTube video. I think what it's about is how you're basically just like a ton of habits all like strung together, which I think is pretty interesting, because it's like in times like these where habits and routines are forcibly interrupted, that we kind of get to see like what parts of our habits are tied to external things, and, you know, how much of ourselves do we control. I'm gonna have like more to say about this probably after I watch it, but I wanted to preface it with that, and I'll send it to you. And I hope you're having fun in quarantine, and I can't wait to hear back from you.